Painless Childbirth. Die. Entered according to an Act of Congress in the year 1886 by John H. Dye, M.D., in the office of the Librarian of Congress at Washington, D.C. Preface. 6,000 years of agony. 6,000 years of unnecessary suffering. It seems scarcely credible, yet it is a fact, that for all these years our race has been perpetuated in pain and anguish. What a sacrifice for women to make on the altar of maternal affection, while all this time her male companion has accepted the traditional superstitions of the past, that it must be apparently satisfied to see her suffer in childbirth with little or no effort for her relief, or the prevention of her agony. Doubtless, many to whom our views are presented will at first declare painless childbirth a preposterous idea, but it will be because they jump at the conclusion before they investigate and consider the methods by which it is to be accomplished. It will be because they think that as woman has endured so much misery through all these years, she must continue to do so for all time to come. To blindly accept the doctrine that our race can only be perpetuated in the midst of cruel pains is a pernicious submission to credulity and superstition, almost as fallacious as it is wicked. Though it may be contrary to what is greatly observed, I assert that the terrible agony woman suffers at childbirth is unnecessary and may, in most cases at least, either be greatly modified or entirely overcome. In proof of this assertion, scores of women have submitted the plans detailed in the following pages to the test of practical experience with the most gratifying results. They have found that by following a few easy and simple instructions, the duration of labor may be reduced to a few hours or minutes, and that pains may be rendered so slight as to be scarcely worthy of notice. In addition, they have found that the same rules have entirely relieved the annoyances so often an accompaniment of gestation. I do not profess to have originated the idea that childbirth should be without pain, although so far as I am aware, I have been the first to show the relations between the causes of pain and their remedies, and put the same into a practical form that woman might avail herself of their advantages. I do not wish to be understood that no one else has done anything in this direction. I have endeavored to give credit wherever it is due, and if I had failed to do justice in any case, it has been unintentional. I do not hesitate to say that I have made use of their views and added my own. At the same time, I have endeavored to render them all practicable, and by the combination increase the advantages. I confess astonishment that obstetric literature should be so barren of suggestions for the prevention of pain at labor as it is. The genius of obstetricians seems to have been directed to the successful accomplishment of labor rather than to the prevention of suffering. Consequently, their art has been of advantage chiefly in difficult and protracted labors, which fortunately occur but in limited proportion of births. My attention was at first directed to the fact that some women suffer so much more severely than others, and I was led to inquire why the sufferings of all might not be reduced to a minimum. The answer was that the physical conditions of all women were not equally favorable to the avoidance of pain. The next step was to decide, if possible, what caused these unfavorable conditions and to seek for a method by which they might be rendered more favorable. Physiology has taught me that all functions, when properly performed as nature had intended, should be without pain, and as childbirth is a natural function of women, I reasoned that it should be painless. It then remained to find means that would overcome these morbid conditions so generally attendant upon this function, and make the process a painless one. How well I have succeeded, those who will follow these suggestions will be able to answer. The accomplishment of this purpose necessitated overcoming, as far as possible, the diseases peculiar to women, and a separate chapter on this subject was prepared, describing such means as would be likely to prove successful in her hands, and which I have the great satisfaction of knowing have been productive of great good, although in a few instances in which severe complications in the way of chronic diseases existed, I have found it advisable to give special advice that could be of little use to the general reader in the conduct of her own treatment. As the mother and child are so nearly inseparable, I have endeavored to give some practical advice regarding the recognition and treatment of the diseases of early life, fully believing that the time-honored maxim, That an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure still holds good, and if the mother recognizes the disease in its incipiency, she may often call to her assistance such means as will prevent fatal consequences or avert lifelong affliction. Good, healthy children must always be regarded by the pure in heart as the chief of God's choicest blessings, and it is to be hoped that those whose homes are cheerless and desolate may find comfort in these pages, as well as those who rejoice in the little darling's affection. Trusting that healthy mothers and healthy children may afford comfort to all classes and carry joy, happiness, and health into the millions of homes over our broad land is the sincerest wish of the author.